Thank you, Ambassador Magid Abdulaziz, and once again, special thanks to Hubert for bringing us all together. We go back many years when he had approached the UN to bring Africa investments and the idea at the international level. And today we are so excited to actually have our partner, the African Union Commission. The Deputy Chairperson is here, and I would like to invite you to come and please join us at the podium, sir. You have been part of this process for us right from the very beginning. So as Ambassador Magid Abdulaziz and Hubert Danso mentioned, we are honored to have President Mahama in our midst. President Mahama does not need any introduction. And you should know one thing, he's a historian, he's a communicator, and he's a writer. He was Minister of Communications. He's one of the most followed people on Twitter and Facebook, in case you didn't know. So he's savvy in this field, actually. Yesterday we had the meeting of the Broadband Commission at the United Nations, where we want to accelerate broadband access. The President has already achieved that and beyond. So we want to warmly welcome you here, sir, and to hear your perspectives. In our midst are people who are eagerly waiting to hear from your thoughts, your ideas, and also ideas of how to connect Africa to the outside world. Welcome, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. That was absolutely inspiring, and it's amazing what things are going on, and often the challenge is communicating that information. So I know you've led the way as the previously Minister of Communication, and how you're actually, Mr. President, you are the first president born after the independence of Ghana, if I'm not mistaken. So it's historic first. You will have an opportunity to ask the President some questions. We've got a wonderful ministerial panel ahead of us as well. But we wanted to take the opportunity with the presence of the Vice Chairperson, the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Mr. Erastus Mwansha. I hope I get the name right, sir. I apologize if I don't. He's joined us, and I'm so privileged that he's here. He's also the chair of ECOWAS, which is the group which is West African Community. ECOWAS works very closely with the UN, with your office, and also ECOWAS provides peacekeeping support to the United Nations. So it's a very important component for us. Mr. Mwansha, may I request you to please say a few remarks, and then we'll go into Q&A as well. Welcome, sir. Thank you, sir, for putting out the 5-point plan for the African Union Commission. Indeed, as Ambassador Magid Abdulaziz mentioned, 2663 was adopted earlier this year. And these are all what I call roads to new investment opportunities, how Africa is opening up. In fact, when the Deputy Chairman came into office, his mission was, it's Africa time, if I'm not mistaken. So Africa time is indeed correct, taking place right now. And I'd like to take this opportunity to invite you to ask questions to our Honorable President Mahama and also to the Deputy Chairperson. Ma'am, may I request you to give your name, introduce yourself, and just be brief, please. Roving mic is just coming to you. If I can pass that, and then I come to you. It's just coming.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Oh, wow, so cold. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adiola Otunoga, and I want to thank everybody for showing up also and give honor and protocol that is due. Thank you, sir. My question is, from my name, I'm Nigerian, and Nigeria and Ghana seems to be brothers and sisters in a kindly fashion over the years. And recently, the Yali youth just came back, and some of them are returning back now to Africa and their various countries. I know Nigeria is doing certain things. I didn't know what exactly the Ghanaian ones are doing. Are they being put back into the workforce? Is the government taking them on? Is the government giving them loans? As the man said before, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, Africa is the youngest population. What exactly are we doing? Did we have to really wait for US to tell us to bring 500 people to America, or are we individually taking up the responsibility to help this youth?
Thank you. I'll take 2 or 3 questions, then we'll come back. There's a lady behind you, and then I'll come to you, sir. Please.
Thank you very much. Dr. Shadifang Razi, Biotrans International, Denver, Colorado. I'm also faculty at University of Denver. I teach innovation and entrepreneurship. So this question, actually 2 questions addressed to President Mahama. I really enjoyed your talk, but a couple of different things. One is that you mentioned about investment in Ghana, and I know a number of other places in Africa related to fossil fuels. One thing that I think is of interest to a lot of us is that if there are initiatives focused on other types of investment, for example, in renewable fuels, as well as green technology, life sciences, biotechnology. So those are some of the areas that we actually see are growing, and I truly believe at least 60–70% of the jobs hopefully in the future are going to be in a number of other areas besides fossil fuels. So that's one question. The second question is that obviously education is really critical. A couple of speakers actually talked about the issue that there's unemployment among the youth in Africa. And I truly believe education is the key. And one part of education is the entrepreneurship and innovation training. And I was just wondering if any of the speakers had comments related to any of the trainings.
It's a very good question. So, and I'll come to you.
Thank you. And I'd like to join the first question in thanking our speakers all of today, and especially His Excellency for being here. I last visited Accra in 2011. And it made a huge impact. My name is Graham Sinclair. I'm principal of Sustainable Investment Consulting, also president of the Africa Sustainable Investment Forum, looking to promote sustainable investment in Africa. My question to you, Your Excellency, but also to the other panelists, if you will, I'm intrigued by leadership. And I'm intrigued by political leadership because of how critically important it is to organize the efforts in Africa and looking for partnerships between public sector and private sector. And so I'm interested in the role, for example, of the Mo Ibrahim Prize, which was last awarded in 2011 to President Perez of Cape Verde. Simply put, a prize for lifting countries out of poverty, putting them on a sustainable path, but also importantly, leaving office when the term ends, which you could also consider a great investment in one's personal future because it's a $5 million prize. So as an executive, it would also be a good ending. What is the view on political leaders leading by example, and when could we have more Africans winning the Mo Ibrahim Prize?
Thank you, sir. Very good question. I'll take one more. I see Bob at the end, please. If we can get to the mic too. And then we also have Bob Diamond, who's walked in. Bob, welcome. I know you're doing the next panel soon. Delighted to have you here. Time is running out.
Thank you, Amir. Rob Collarine, AIAC Investment. My question is a short one. For Your Excellency, I appreciate your commentary on and the specifics on the Ebola situation. Could you just share a little bit about how your administration has quantified and addressed that? And then to what extent have you, with your other leader neighbors, quantify, or is there variance between the risk, damage, and the size, those type of things? I'd be interested in that.
So I think, Mr. President, may I invite you to start with the questions that have been raised, and we request the other panelists to add. Thank you. Yep. It's probably easier.
Just quickly, I would start from the last question. first. That is quantifying the risks that it poses to growth and investment in West Africa, if I'm right. The international monetary institutions have said that this year, countries affected by Ebola would see a reduction of 3.6 to 4% in GDP growth as a result of Ebola. The outbreak began in March, which typically in West Africa is the beginning of the agricultural season. And so that whole season is lost. So agriculture is going to suffer, and those countries might need some humanitarian assistance in terms of food aid. It will affect all other West African countries, even those that have not seen an outbreak of Ebola, like Ghana. Ghana has seen no outbreak of Ebola, but I know of major conferences and major investment groups that were supposed to visit that have postponed their visit because of the outbreak. And so definitely our own economies, even for those of us who have not seen a single case of Ebola, is going to take a hit. We probably might shave off some 1% of GDP growth this year. So it's going to have an economic impact, and we must do everything possible to bring it under control as quickly as possible. Let me address the other question, which, if I remember exactly which it was, it talked about leadership. And I believe if you look a decade back and you look at Africa today, you see more leaders abiding by the tenets of democracy than existed in the past. There are more elections taking place. There are more leaders leaving office when it's time to leave. I don't say there are no exceptions, but I do think that one of the things that Africa is enjoying is the democracy dividend. At least in my country, since 1992, we've held 6 successful elections. 2 presidents have left office after 2 terms in office. My predecessor died in his first term, and I got sworn in as president, and I fought an election and won. I have another election coming up in 2016, and if I win that, I'll serve a 2nd term, and I leave office in 2020, and somebody else will take it up from where you leave off and continue. The former messianic, philosophy that surrounded leaders is gone for good, and I believe that Africa would continue to see entrenched democracy. Civil society organizations are very active, and I believe that is good for investment and economic growth. Incidentally, the Mo Ibrahim Prize was supposed to be held in Ghana this year in October, and it's one of the fora that have been put off as a result of the Ebola scare. And it's most unfortunate, but I guess that frantic efforts are being made to fix a new date to hold that event. Entrepreneurship training, yes, it's one of the things we're involved in. We have seen an expansion in tertiary education in Africa, especially in countries like Ghana, and we have young people graduating at all levels of the tertiary stream. One of the major difficulties we faced is in the slow growth of the private sector to be able to absorb a lot of these graduates that are coming out. And so most of them come seeking employment in the public sector. But there's a limit to what employment the public sector can guarantee. And that is why we are looking to promote private sector investment, and then also to provide the graduates coming up with entrepreneurial training so that they can go out and set up their own small and medium enterprises. And so about a month ago, I launched a new initiative we call the YES Initiative. That is a Youth Enterprise Support Initiative. And what we do is to invite proposals from young graduates, evaluate those proposals and see what they want to do, and then get successful businessmen to serve as mentors to these young people and help them come up with a project proposal that is fundable. And we've committed 10 million Ghana cedis to this, so we will finance the projects, and under the mentorship of the already successful business people. We will put them through until they're able to stand on their own feet, and then we will graduate them from the program. And so, yes, we're taking that into consideration, and we're working on it. In what areas are there opportunities for investment apart from, fossil fuels and energy and the traditional large-scale investments? There are opportunities for investments in so many areas. I just gave a few, but I mean in tourism and hospitality, in restaurants, the service sector, in banking, in finance, in telecommunications. I mean, all the sectors are open to investment, and we're seeing inward investment from all over the world, and including domestic investment mobilization within Ghana itself in all these areas that I've talked about. A very successful youth summit was held here in the U.S. on the sidelines of the U.S.-Africa Leadership Summit. Ghana had a particularly large contingent of young people being chosen to participate. And most of them are young, bright, sharp Ghanaians who, several of them who have started their own small and medium enterprises already. And what we're looking to do is to ensure that we create the vehicle with which to support these young people to grow their businesses and be able to employ others, so that we're able to get more of our young people, finding jobs. As we said, Africa has a fast-growing population, which is a very good advantage, but also is a key threat if we're not able to harness it properly. If you have hundreds of thousands of young people finishing university and polytechnics every year, and they can't find jobs, and they're just sitting idly, that is a threat, to security and stability. And so it's something that we need to take cognizance of and expand the economies, create opportunities for jobs, train them to be able to become entrepreneurs themselves and be able to absorb their colleagues into their businesses. I think that's the way to go, and we're going to give it our best shot. Thank you.
Mr. President, thank you so much for the explanations. They're very helpful. In fact, the youth initiative is what President Obama would say, yes, we can, is how you've designed it. May I invite you to thank the Honorable President Mahama, the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, the Undersecretary General for the United Nations Special Advisor on Africa, Ambassador Magid Abdulaziz, and always ever gracious host, Hubert Danso. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Doing business in Africa. You can't afford to be without Africa Investor.